Commodore fans, are you ready? It's time for another episode of the Vandy247 podcast on the 440 Sports Network. Keep it locked right here for the best Vanderbilt coverage. Whether it's Clark Lee on the gridiron, Mark Byington and Shea Ralph on the hardwood, or Tim Corbin on the diamond, the Vandy247 crew has you covered. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. Also, like this video and subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's free and easy to do. Follow the crew on Twitter, Apple Podcast, and Spotify for podcast episodes. Lastly, if you're interested in sponsoring the show, email Chris Lee at chrislee70@gmail.com. And now, pull up a chair. It's time for another episode of the Vandy247 podcast.
Welcome into Vandy247 Live on the Believe Network. I'm your host, Billy Derrick, alongside Chris Lee and Luke Wyatt on a hot, steamy, humid Wednesday in Nashville. But we're talking football and pretty much all football today. And we'll be doing a lot of it, obviously, day one of fall camp. So I'll give you some takeaways, and we'll also take some of your mailbag questions as well. But I do want to tell you before we do anything about Bulovas Wealth Management, if there's one thing we all share, it's that our lives are all unique. At Raymond James, they believe that's worth celebrating, because financial planning isn't just about numbers and figures. It's about creating the life that you envision. So whether you're building a future or preparing for retirement, a Raymond James financial advisor can help you each step of the way, and that is our man Joe Bulovas, former Vanderbilt kicker, all while following a plan that's uniquely yours. That's life well planned. To learn more, call Joe Bulovas with Bulovas Wealth Management of Raymond James at 615-645-6742. Again, that's 615-645-6742, or log on to raymondjames.com. Raymond James and Associates Incorporated, member New York Stock Exchange, SIPC. Gentlemen, how are we doing this morning?
Great. Better than you. You were out in the heat today.
Yeah, it was hot. Before we jumped on, Chris, I told Luke, I feel like Clark after every first fall camp practice. The theme is we got to grow up. You know, I know it's hot, but we got to fight through it. We had a grow up quote today as he spoke to the team. But
I have a question. Was that penalties or was there a fight?
There wasn't a fight.
Okay.
I think it was maybe some lackadaisical, just nature. I mean, it was hot. Like it was really hot today, and I think they only practiced for 90 minutes, but it was good to see everybody out there. Got some injuries to discuss. Our man Robbie just posted his notes from fall camp today, so I'll try to. I was taking a look at the defense. I'll see if I can get mine out there, but it's so funny, guys, how people, today they were in shells. I mean, they were in helmets. No pads, and fans just that's all they want to see, Luke, and they want info.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to get anything from today except coach setting the tone for practice. If guys are complaining about being hot, stuff like that, you got to get that crap, address all that, do a little housekeeping, and make sure their minds are right. That's all you get out of something like today.
Fall camp, like the amount of stuff people want to know, the appetite is endless. Like they want to know how the fourth team quarterback who might play 3 years from now looked.
Yeah.
The amount of stuff that you can actually glean from a practice without pads and stuff is extremely minimal. Now, it's usually bad news stuff, right? Like somebody wasn't there today. And I know fans don't want to hear that. I think what hurts maybe the credibility of our business. Maybe it doesn't hurt credibility. I think fans just want to know stuff, even if we make it up, which we don't. But you look at every fall camp, and you got a bunch of people out there that haven't done this long, and it's like, oh, so and so looked good today. So and so looked good today. So and so looked good today. Which is why when they tee it up, you're going to have 16 SEC teams that all think they're going to win 10 games or more.
I've got a weird way of comparing it. It's like an 8th grade dance. You go and watch everybody be just standing around, and you got a bunch of awkward looking kids, and then you got a couple that know what they're doing. And that's basically what it is. It's a mishmash. You don't learn anything for a while with camp, because even the coaches are trying to figure out their depth, and they already know who's going to be who they can depend on Saturdays. Pretty much, there's going to be a few surprises, but right now you're not going to tell anything.
Yeah, a couple things that I noticed today. Blaze Berlowitz looked really good. And that's a theme throughout the season that I think we'll be talking about. How if Pavia goes down, what's behind him, and if that's Berlowitz, which we think it will be, what does he look like? How does he operate the offense? He's been in this offense. He was the backup there at New Mexico State under Pavia. He had a really good day. Clark mentioned that after practice. You do have some injuries. Kivo Wesley and Simeon Bulware have some pretty significant injuries. And they're, who knows at Bulware. Clark didn't officially say they'd be out for the season, but they'll be out for a good bit. You had Mark Davis who sat out. He had a late summer deal with his knee. Linus Zunk was off to the side, has a back issue. But, other than that, guys, they're pretty healthy as a whole. It was interesting to see some of the new guys. Trey Richardson is a guy that I'll be watching, because he's going to have to block within this offense. How does he continue to develop? I thought, and they're doing 7-on-7s right now, but I thought the receivers had a pretty good day. Trent Hudson is a guy that made a couple of plays, and that's a guy we'll be watching throughout fall camp as well. But guys, weight gain. Right, weight gain is always something to note as well. Clark specifically mentioned Mason Carter as a guy that has worked to transform his body. Jalen Stone, a guy they brought in from Southeast Missouri State, has put on some pounds as well. Brian Longwell, Chris, when you go, and Luke, I know you'll be going to practice too. He put on some weight, some big weight, and so he looks good. But that's a lot of what I've got, guys. The defense is kind of what I'll be tracking. How do the young guys come along? Carson Lawrence is a guy that really looks the part. I mean, you'll notice this too, guys, when you go. He's a physical kid, and he doesn't look like a freshman at all right there. Keanu Coate, how does he come along on the defensive side? But after practice, I asked Patterson about the linebacker room. He said he enjoys that competition. It's not like they just have two guys up top. But he said their goal is to be the best linebacker room of the country. And Luke, you've talked about that linebacker room being a really good group, and man, that's what I think is a strength of this defense. As long as they stay healthy, that's going to be a really good group.
I tell you what, go back and watch some old film of 95, 96. Now the teams weren't good, but the defense was, and the strength of that defense, they had two great corners in Corey Chavis and Fred Vinson. But they also had 4 or 5 linebackers: Carlton Hall, Mark Jeffcoat, Jamie Duncan, those guys. This is the type of team. Now, I'm not saying they're that good, but as a group, the depth of this group at linebacker, man alive, because you have to throw Fontenette. He's going to play linebacker some. You throw Fontenette, Longwell, those guys. And I saw Longwell back in June. I could tell the difference in him. I saw him out at a restaurant, Chili's, I think it was. And, yeah, he looks different. He looks like he's got 15, 20 pounds more muscle on him. He's carved out. And, again, the depth at Vanderbilt has never been better. Even the James Franklin teams, this teams have more quality depth than what those teams had.
Yeah. Here's an interesting thing. When Robbie was doing his top 20 players for camp, there was a name on there that I didn't expect. And that was Bryce Cowan, who's also in that linebacker-ish mix. Nick Rinaldi is in there. I mean, it is a much deeper group. Rinaldi, I guess, is their, I don't know if you'd call him their pass rush specialist, because I think he may play more than just that, but they really like him from what I can tell. But you throw Cowan in there, like that's a guy that always looks good in practice and makes plays. And then when it gets to Saturday, he's not on the field as much as you would think from watching, which I think is, that's usually when you miss an assignment or something like that. I think there was some allusion to those things. But that's another piece that they've got there that might be, linebacker. It feels like they've been pretty thin there in recent years, and DB too especially. I think they are deeper in the back seven than they've been in a long time, as Luke alluded. And Billy, I want to know, I got to press you. How good did Carson Lawrence look in a helmet, in a jersey, just running around out there against nothing?
Oh, looked very good. I mean,
good.
Yeah.
I as
love,
good as you can look in the jersey and a helmet.
That's my favorite part of it. Some of the other notes I took, Patterson looks healthy. It had a good day.
That is notable.
Yeah, Martell Height got beat by Trey Richardson in a one-on-one. Corday Sidner looks quicker and more agile. The receivers, like I said, had a good day. So until they go full pads August 5th, there's not a ton really to work with.
By the way, I'm just giving you. I've made those observations before. I've just the longer I do it, I'm like, okay, great. Let's see this when they put the pads on and hit people.
Yeah. Like there's guys, we watched fall camp last year, Chris, and Bryson Coleman really stood out until unfortunately he got hurt, and he's back making plays today at practice. There's other guys like that you may call them scrimmage heroes or whatever you may call, but they may make plays in fall camp, and you have some big takeaways, but they're not in the offense's plan as we may have thought.
I will tell you this: one of the hardest things to discern in fall camp, one is the run game. I just can't ever tell how well a team is going to run the ball when they're having to pull up, and you can't close out blocks, you can't close out hits. That's always hard to tell. And the other thing is the camp warrior thing. I mean, we joke about it, but you've seen guys sometimes that are really good practice players. And then guys that come out of the blue that okay, I didn't see much from him in practice. And then the season turns the page. And sometimes the ones that really blow up in fall camp, I'll give you two that I've always thought were really good practice players. I remember used to rave about Jordan Matthews, the first half of his sophomore year or so. And just nothing would happen. I'm like, I know I saw what I saw. And then, the light came on and it became what it became. And I felt like an idiot for a while. I was like, man, I gave Jordan Matthews all this fall camp hype, and now he's doing nothing. I'm going to kill my credibility. And then you know what happened. And Cole Spence has always been a guy that I've always thought has practiced really well and shown some potential. Now, behind Stowers, how much I know they kind of play different. They can both be on the field at the same time, but that's one I've always had in the back of my head. I know injuries have been there. He's a guy that has flashed some things in a practice setting. It's never really translated to the field to that degree, but just kind of a note on practice warriors there. Sometimes you've got something and you've got to wait for it. And sometimes kids are just good practice players and it never really pops in a game.
Well, let's go back to last fall. We talked about this. We were really worried the offense didn't look good during camp.
Oh,
who's going to make plays and this and that. Diego didn't even look great. But you've got guys, and I've used this guy as a comparison. Diego's one of them. There was a guy named Billy Cunningham who played at Vanderbilt. He was probably the worst practice player there was. First of all, he'd probably show up late for stretch, and he'd have to run. Then when he get out there, he wasn't paying a lot of attention. He just depended on his athletic ability. But when the lights came on Saturday, you could depend on him. And the coaches figured that out, and he got more and more playing time as he stayed at Vandy. Same thing with Diego. A lot of guys that are really good practice players, and I'm not knocking this, but they are really good. They stick their nose in their playbook. They learn everything, all the intricacies. They're very smart kids. But then when they have to play against another team's defense where they don't kind of know what's coming and not familiar on the other side of the ball, whether it be offense or defense, that's where they can sometimes take a step back.
Yeah, Chris, what we were talking about right now was I was at this point last year, I was still saying I think Nate Johnson is the guy, or at least it's still a battle. We didn't really firmly believe that Diego Pavi was going to be the guy until maybe practice 3, 4, maybe as soon as they put the pads on. It was pretty clear when we realized it, but and then the last week and a half, 2 weeks, we weren't allowed in practice. They had to have put more things in than we could have ever imagined, because that offense looked a lot different against Virginia Tech than what we saw. Obviously, I mean that's if we're there, we're not going to see what they're going to want to run, but that was the talking point last year.
Yeah, I never believed Nate Johnson was going to win that job going into camp. You don't bring a guy's offensive coordinator and his head coach and that player to campus. I mean, I think Nate was the plan until Diego Pavi is available, and then that, and you can't come out and say, well, Diego's our guy. Then you just may lose the guy you just got and lose your backup. But yeah, I mean, this year that's a lot more settled. But I mean, that was the thing. Billy, I remember you and Joey and I would go to practice. I remember one scrimmage in particular. We just all in the press box, we all just looked at each other like, this is like going to be an historically bad offense.
Yeah.
I mean, we just all were just going, this is the worst thing I've ever seen. And then, and maybe it just was getting the new system. Maybe, and let's face it, you knew Diego Pavia was probably going to take a beating, get a lot of carries. Maybe that was just, hey, let's ease into this thing. And that's part of what we saw. But that was wild this time last year, because there was nothing in what we saw in August that was going to predict what was coming.
No. And I know we got to get to some mailbag questions, but something I did ask Clark is, now that you have key players coming back, specifically on offense like Pavia and like Stowers, are they going to be limited at all going into this season? Clark said likely not. They're going to stay aggressive, and you may think, okay, if Pavia's out, what's going on? But they're going to limit them some, but they're going to continue to push on and get them some practice time that they need. But it'll be interesting. Again, the schedule is out. We've got the schedule. They do have another practice tomorrow, so we'll be out there with plenty of coverage. We'll have the interviews posted up here in just a second with Clark Lee, Junior Sherrill, and Langston Patterson. Do want to get to some of the mailbag questions, though. And before we do, I want to tell you about Sutherland & Belk, family-owned injury law firm, sponsoring the chat room. If you want to fire away any live questions in today's mailbag, if your loved one has been hurt or in an accident, give Taylor or Russell a call at 615-846-6200 to learn about your rights and whether they can help. Also, our guest line with Chris and Luke, brought to you by John Levin, good friend of the show, Wobble Bond Dickinson. Thanks to student athletes at Vanderbilt for their dedication, effort, and hard work. Also, Yeaman Packaging Systems, leaders in end-of-line packaging automation. All right, we start with C. Perk. Can you give a rundown of what you saw today at fall camp? Already hit on that a little bit. Also, if blank turns out to be really good, this team could take a step forward. I think that's a better question there. If blank turns out to be really good, this team could take a big step forward. Guys, I look at the receiver room because, look, we know what we're going to get from Eli Stowers. Bryson Coleman should give you some things. Cole Spence, more of a blocking guy. I look at Trent Hudson. I think you got to get some things out of Trent Hudson that can carry you. Like if Sherrill goes down, where do you go at that point? I would almost go Trent Hudson. If he turns out this team could take a big step forward.
I think I mentioned I think Trey Richardson has to be really good. He has to be able to stretch the defense. That's what they lacked last year. It'll free things up for Eli Stowers, take the pressure off him, take the pressure off Junior, and you still got good possession receivers. I mean, guys, as much as we think these new receivers and we talk about it, there's still guys that are very dependable that make big plays for this team, and like a guy like Richie Hoskins. He's going to catch everything you throw to him. He's going to do everything right. He's going to block well. There's enough out there, but a guy like Trey Richardson has to really step up and help him.
Yeah, Richardson was my answer too. I don't know. I mean, the question was be really good. I mean, Trent Hudson, to me, I still don't know why he didn't do more last year at a team that could use it. I know they had Keon Coleman, who's got a lot of targets there, but Richardson's a guy that's got game-changing speed.
Yeah, he's a burner, and they need him to produce. They're also going to need him to block, though, too. So I think the battle there is Richie Hoskins or Trey Richardson, whoever gets more playing time there. And obviously different formations will dictate that as well. But I think that's a battle to keep an eye on. Also, Anchor Down 2401, not including Sherrill or Stowers, which one of Hudson, Richardson, Fitzgerald, and Height do you think has the most receiving yards this year, and which has the most touchdowns? I'm kind of with you here, Luke. Like, Trent Hudson can be a good third down guy and maybe has a few red zone touchdowns. But if this offense is really clicking, I think that means Trey Richardson is having success. So I may go Trey Richardson. We haven't hit on Martell Hyde at the receiver spot as much. That's a big X factor too. We don't know what we're going to get from him and how much we're going to see of him at receiver. But Luke, I like your Trey Richardson pick there in terms of a guy that could have the most production out of that room.
Yeah. I think he's just because of the speed. I mean, just when you stretch the defense like that, even if he ain't the guy that your target, then it's going to free things up for Junior and the other guys.
Hey, Billy, to circle back on your on your Hudson pick there, I might give that a little bit more credence. Like he didn't play. I don't think he caught a pass last year. I don't know. What was the deal? Was it an injury or what was it? Do we know?
I don't
Was
think it was
coach?
an injury. I don't. I think there was something off the field with the coaching staff potentially. Yeah.
Well, I'm looking 2 years ago. Okay. And I guess this is in Mississippi State, right?
What that would have been New Mexico State.
Oh, New Mexico. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah. Never mind. Okay, well, he caught 551 yards worth of balls, but it was 15.7 a catch and 10 scores. Now, look, that's a different level of ball, but that does point to a little bit of playmaking ability. So I may have dismissed that one a little bit early. I still think the answer is Trenton Richardson because of the speed, but that's a call. Maybe don't sleep on that one either.
Yeah.
And he was catching those passes from Diego Pavia, correct?
Correct.
Exactly. He's back with Beck and Kill and Pavia and Stowers and MK Young. So there's probably a comfort level there. I think Richardson is, or not Richardson, but Hudson is a bigger X factor than a lot of people realize. The next question here: what was the biggest surprise of the first day of camp from Vandy Danger? I think it's Bulovas. I think you guys would have said the same thing if y'all were there. Pavia looked good, but Bulovas was really spinning it. Had some nice touch throws, so I would go Bulovas there as the biggest surprise. And it's day one. You know, we're gonna have some more takeaways, especially when they go in pads. But that's what I would say for day one. Vandy fan Pate, any thoughts on the Jordan Rogers Pavia ranking? I forget where he rated him in an interview. He said he didn't have Pavia in his top 10 of quarterbacks in the SEC. Look, it's a preseason ranking. I know he's a former Vanderbilt quarterback. He did explain, I watched the interview. He said by the end of the season, he likes some of the other players. I didn't agree with having a guy like a Ty Simpson ahead of him who was unproven and some other players, but it's a preseason ranking. I don't, and look, if anything, that helps Pavia if he saw it. So,
well,
it's a go ahead, Luke.
I'm sorry. Well, I was going to say, I know Jordan very well, and you know, he took a little criticism for this, but Jordan bends over backwards sometimes to be anti-Vanderbilt, if that makes sense. I haven't talked to him about it, but I think, you know, whenever you have an announcer that played at a school in the conference, and you put him in front of he first thing in the back of his mind is, okay, I can't come out here and say Pavia is the top quarterback in the SEC, or they'll say, oh, of course he is because he went to Vanderbilt. You know, you hardly ever see a guy that played at that school give the overwhelming credit to an individual, and I think that's more what it is than anything.
Yeah, I think when you're in that position, you want to be sure everybody knows you went to Vanderbilt. You don't want to come off as a Vanderbilt homer, so people probably go overboard in those roles, in those spots, which I get it. Still, I think that leaving Pavia out of the top 10 is a disservice. It is a weird year for quarterbacks in this league because I'll start kind of at the top. Like you got Arch Manning, who everybody's known about for 6 years, and he's just now going to be starting. You got a new starter, albeit a talented one, who was a 5-star kid, and Ty Simpson. You've got, Georgia's got a situation where Gunnar Stockton is very talented, but also not very proven. And I feel like the list of quarterbacks in the league is guys that are really talented, and either they haven't been the guy yet, so we don't know what they'll be when they are the guy, or it's guys like Garrett Nussmeier, Lenore Sellers, DJ Lagway, who looked really good in short periods of time, like a year or less as a starter. And then you've got the kind of the Pavia. I don't know how long Blake Shapen was a starter at Mississippi State. Most of the guys are really talented, but most of them have not been a starter for a full year or more. Pavia is one of the few guys on this list. And I think Zach Calzada at Kentucky is another one, although a couple of his have been like at Incarnate Word, so it's a lower level. So it's a really weird year because you have a lot of guys that everybody thinks are going to be really good, and some of them have been really good in spurts, but not a lot of guys, maybe nobody that's been a starter like at this level for 2 years or more. And so the mix of opinion on that is all over the board. And frankly, I don't know how I'd sort it out. I will tell you, if I had to pick 10, there's no way Pavia is not in that list because of what we saw last year. Give me proven it over, talented, but we'll see, because talented, but we'll see. More often than not, the quarterbacks in that spot don't live up to what the hype was. So it's a very, I don't know how you'd rank them, because it is an unusual year for quarterbacks in this league.
I'll give you a quick opinion. To me, the best arm talent is Nussmeier. Now, best quarterback, I don't know. He's got some talented receivers around him, so he may be. But another one, I think Mateer. I think he's going to be really, really good. But you're right. I think if I had to rank them, Diego would be probably around 5th or 6th.
But you know what, Luke, even with Mateer, and he's the guy that everybody's in love with, I looked at his game log last year. And when they played the better teams, the numbers were not as good. So even there, I'm just not sure what you're getting at Oklahoma. I think he's a good player, but you look at the Boise State game, and they didn't play a lot of really tough teams, but the numbers took a hit against the better end.
Next one here is a good one from Clark Lee Burner. Has the offseason strength and conditioning led to any notable improvements for any players? If you're a subscriber to the board, you'll know, because Robbie just posted some notable weight gains on the roster, and it's really good stuff. And I had already talked about Jalen Stone as a guy that Clark mentioned putting on some weight. Brian Longwell as well, but Robbie did a great job of outlining some of the improved weight from some of these guys, so go check that out. JC32VU, any thoughts or insights on Steve Gregory as the DC? Haven't hit on this a ton. And guys, I think something that's interesting, Langston Patterson actually mentioned this after practice. I asked him about Steve Gregory and kind of the implementation of that defense heading into this season. Look, it's not going to be a different defense, but we knew this. Clark, Luke, we had talked about it. Steve Gregory's running the defense the last 5 or so games of the season. And that was something that we had mentioned as well. So this is nothing new, and Clark will still be involved. He'll still be teaching. But that's still going to be interesting to watch, guys. Are there certain games where Clark takes a little bit more of a hold? I'm sure there will be, but it's not going to be very different.
Well, from what I can tell, they're kind of conjoined twins at the head. I don't see a lot of difference in their philosophy. He knows what Clark wants, and as long as he's comfortable with that and he doesn't go outside the box, then I don't see any problems with Gregory making the calls on defense.
Yeah, I thought that the defense got so much better with Clark taking it over last year. And frankly, it wasn't a very talented defense, I don't think. I think it's much more talented this year than it was last year. You said the last half dozen games, they weren't exactly getting a ton of stops. They held teams down on the scoreboard. But teams were moving the ball a little bit. That does make me a little bit nervous, I guess. Although you looking, like they gave up 36 to Georgia State. So it wasn't just like it was just then. But I don't know. I thought it worked so well with Clark last year doing that you would hope that if it goes wrong, he would maybe take back what had worked before. But I think they've got more dudes to work with this year, which will make a difference.
Yeah. From Tez the Door, do you guys think the running back production will be better this season? Look, you got Cedric back. You bring in MK Young, a guy that's going to be an X factor. What does he give you? Chase Gillespie provides a little bit of depth. You've got a young guy in Gabe Fields that I think can do some things. AJ Newberry is a guy that we don't talk about enough. I don't think he got, and I'm not ripping the offense or the play calling or anything. I don't think he got enough touches last year. He's used in the passing game a lot, guys, but Luke, I think they can improve. It'd be interesting to see, can Cedric take a step forward? But what do you get from MK Young? I think that's the biggest question I'm looking for, and especially throughout fall camp.
Well, besides Pavia, this is probably the most important position to stay healthy in. Last year, it wasn't just Diego banged up toward the end of the season. It was running backs too. Newberry was out. Ced was going on one wheel. That's the thing. They're not an offense. They're not a bunch of running backs that's going to take it to the house. but they can be a lot more effective. The key to that, then, again, though, is going to be how the offensive line meshes this year. I think depth-wise, it's going to be better than last year, but performance-wise, we don't know yet.
Yeah, I think the line is going to make everybody better. Health should make everybody better. I don't think it's a standout group. And by the way, circling back to Trey Richardson, he carried the ball 32 times a year ago, 7.5 a pop. So I'm guessing he's going to get a carry or two a game on top of that.
Martell Height, sweeps, end arounds, things like. There's a lot of guys that you could see getting carries. But especially with the way they use this offense. Luke, you mentioned the offensive line. The next question is about the offensive line. Let's see here from VA 72. How do they look? Do they look like they will be able to mash some people? That's the hope. I mean, that you bring in 4 new players. After you lose Steven Lasoya, a veteran guy, you lose Gunnar Hansen. You lose Xavier Castillo. I think if anything, there's a chance for them to be a quicker unit. Maybe more athletic. Isaiah Glass comes over from Oklahoma State. Sterling Porsche from Texas Tech. Jordan White, one of the better centers in the country. A guy, and you need your center to be solid in this offense. Chase Mitchell, can he continue to play well? Bryce Henderson, guys, that's a guy I forgot to mention. He's listed at 6'8", 325. So that's a big dude that moved well today when I was looking at him. But I don't want to say they're unproven guys, Luke, but you're gonna need that unit to play better than they did last year. Not that they weren't good last year, but that's a unit that's important as well.
Yeah, well, they're unproven as a unit. I think you've got individuals that have proven themselves, not necessarily at the Power 4 level. But I feel good about Glass. I feel good about Henderson. But my thing is this, last year that you saw a whole lot of switching. I don't think you'll see quite as much of that with this group. I think you got some guys that, like moving Chase Mitchell inside, I think is a key. Chase he got beat a lot on the outside. You move a guy like Chase inside, that just makes your running game a little bit better. And you can run some cross-buck plays and some things in there with him because he's a big kid and he's pretty quick. So I think that's going to help with the running game big time.
Yeah, I think the physical dimensions of the line are interesting, and I think you get this on both lines of scrimmage. Like you go to a game sometime, you walk around on the field, and these SEC teams are just trotting out these gargantuan tackles, 6'6", 6'7", 6'8". Feels like in the height range, they're starting to get there a little bit more, and in the weight range a little bit too. Now, sometimes weight can be too much weight, but I feel like in the trenches they're a little bigger than they've been most years. We'll see if that translates or not.
Well, one other thing about the offensive line, especially tackles, Robbie Caldwell used to always tell me, he'd say, Luke, give me a guy who can dance and a guy who's got long arms, and I can turn him into an all-SEC tackle.
Well, let me follow up there. I asked Robbie once, what's the biggest thing that you look for in a lineman? And he didn't even pause, and he said tenacity. So that's the trait that we will be looking for too.
Yeah, and I'm interested. We know about Coach Klanakis. That's a good definition of him as a coach, tenacity. I love watching him with the offensive linemen. But the new offensive line assistant that they brought in, they lost a guy to the Titans, and I feel awful. I'm forgetting his name, Luke. Who did they bring in?
I can't remember. Okay,
he came from South Dakota State, correct?
Yes.
So he helped obviously aid getting Bryce Henderson in there, and we'll get his name out there. But I'd be interested to see what he's able to bring to that unit as well. Let's see here. Vandy Guy 96. How does the stadium look after being at camp opening today? I'm not worried about it being done in time. I think it will be fine. Just interested to hear your thoughts and observations. Looks better. Went over there. The back side of it is, I'm not going to say done, but that the exterior looks better. The seats are going in. The video board looks just about done. Clark was asked about it today, and obviously he's not probably the best guy, and he admitted that. I'm lower in the totem pole in terms of talking about the stadium, but he said, hey, they may be hammering that last nail the couple of nights before, but the goal is to get it done. But yeah, it looks better. I'll say this: it'll be a big relief when that thing's done.
Well, I've got a little insight on this. I haven't shared it with anyone until right now. So everybody put your ear to the screen. Everything will be done except for the part that, like, there was supposed to be a dining hall for football in there. That's not going to be ready in time for the season. Why? I don't know. I couldn't tell you. But the stuff that for the fan experience, everything will be 100%. That's what I'm.
Look, how much of this is related to fundraising?
Well, that and prioritizing where money goes and how I don't know the ins and outs of how you pay to get something like that built, but that's the only thing. I'm not going to make an excuse for Vanderbilt that it takes so long, because I've seen so many other things around Nashville and other areas that have moved faster. So I don't know. It's just hard for I can speculate all day, but to me, it should have already been done. That's just the way I feel.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing was years later than it was supposed to be anyway. I mean, you had kids that, were Clark's first recruits that never got to see any of this. And I never understand why they wait to, the whole hammering the last nail, the morning of kickoff thing is just, that feels like a thing that should be unavoidable. I mean, you got a lot of smart people at Vanderbilt. I don't understand why it always goes down to the wire where we have this conversation about stuff every year.
I've said this before on here. I have an in-law who's an engineer, and of course he's going to take the side of the engineer. I understand that, but he's told me that in building something at Vanderbilt, as tight as everything is, a lot of times you have to delay one to finish the other, and that could have been some issues as well. But again, I'm with you, Chris. It should have been done by now, no matter what.
Well, I wish they had gotten this done for the spring game. I think I'd suggested that. Like, that would have been a cool thing, okay? Everybody's excited. You got more people there than usual. It's still a tiny attendance, but, hey, let's make this a big thing. Let's tour. Let's show fans the completed buildings. Like, you had a chance there that felt very doable to me to raise excitement on the heels of last year, on the heels, of getting a better roster in the portal, all those things. Like, I just thought, to me, if you're really paying attention and trying to nail it, get it done by then. Take that off the table as a narrative of everything taking so. Show people what you've done, and I don't understand why it is what it is.
Well, that tour we did, Chris, before the season with the construction hats on, wasn't that like the week before the season started?
That was days before, and I think we all looked at each other going, I don't know that they're going to get this done. And that was just one end zone building. Like, I thought we were going to be seeing, construction guys, literally working on the thing as they were letting fans into the building if they were going to get it done in time for kickoff.
I will say this: I'm going to miss watching, in the south end zone last year, watching the construction guys lean over and take a break, during the game, and then get back to work after that. That was fun. We do have the second part of this question: is there an attendance capacity figure announced yet? Right now, and I assume this is after the south end zone is done. Right now, they're at 28,934. I don't know. It'll increase, right? They're putting more actual seats into that south end zone. Luke, does it get to 30?
No, it'll be over 30. I think it's going to be around
32.
31 to 32, yeah.
Okay.
I think 31 was a number, 31 and change that someone told me a couple of years ago, maybe.
Okay. Either way, it'll be fun. I mean, they'll be able to scrimmage in the stadium. I think every scrimmage should be in the stadium. No more traveling over to Innsworth to go scrimmage. So we've got that to look forward to. We've got more fall camp to look forward to. But guys, I'll leave it with y'all with any parting thoughts.
No,
Luke.
No, I mean, I'm going to head over to practice either this weekend or I'll be there Monday. I'm interested if there's anything that I'm interested in. It's again, seeing the development. Like I said, I saw Brian Longwell, just to see physically what they look like, because that's really all you're going to be able to tell in the first few weeks. I think they put the pads on August the 5th, maybe. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
then you can tell a little bit more. But up until then, that's what I'm looking for, just see how athletic they look and physically how they look.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting out there probably next week. We've still got kids at home. School starting next week for ours. One starts at the beginning of the week, one starts at the end. So that'll free me up a little bit. But yeah, looking forward to getting out and seeing them a bit.
And we'll continue to have full coverage. Robbie's got practice report already up. I'll add some of my thoughts. We'll get the interviews up there as well. And you can get 50% off your first year of an annual subscription right now for the inside scoop throughout fall camp at Vandy247.com. So head over there, subscribe if you haven't yet. It's probably the best time to do that. Subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. Like this video. Fire away your comments and questions for any of these live videos. We'll catch you again next week. I think I'll put an episode out maybe with Robbie later this week, but we'll catch you guys then. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time with more episodes of the Vandy 247 podcast.